Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a Runnin Thought podcast. Or I guess I should say, welcome to a Runnin Thought podcast. Um, it's been a long time since I did one of these. I think, as far as I can tell, the last one I did was back in March. So it's currently October. So yeah, if you're still around and listening, thanks. And I'm glad to be back doing these. So I don't even remember where we left off, or what I haven't already said on this thing, because I don't go back and listen to these, but yeah, it's been quite a year. I mean, I'm sure everybody's sort of in uh, the same boat. It's been crazy, no matter where you are. Um, all right, so let's go ahead and jump into this. So, I guess first and foremost, I made a couple of little tweaks to the podcast website, runninthought.com. That's running without the G. So, runninthought.com. And then from runninthought.com, you can actually you can click to support the podcast, and you can also click to visit the shop. So I had to redo the items that are available inside the shop because Spring redid their platform, and it ended up I had to create an entirely new shop. But all that's fixed now. So if you do want to grab something from there, then awesome. Also, the designs change slightly, or the designs available change slightly. So go check that out. Other than that, I haven't really done too much to the site. I changed, if you don't get this podcast on Spotify or iTunes or some other podcast music app, and you listen to it from the actual runninthought.com site, I changed the player just so that all the episodes are in one sort of player tool, I guess, instead of having all of them separately posted up on that homepage. So you can go there and you can actually download the episodes from there too. Runninthought.com without the G. So running without the G. Anyways, moving on. I guess we'll go ahead and get into the events that are coming up. I looked on ultrasignup.com, and for the great state of Hawaii, I did a search for Big Island and within 500 miles. So that picks up all the way out to Oahu. And I'm only seeing 4 events. But first, we've got Friday, November 26th of this year, A&J's Birthday Bash. That is an 80 miler and a 40 miler event, and that's going to be in Waimea, and that's going to be on Big Island. Second, Friday, December 31st, also of this year, Hilo, Hawaii, Go Big, which is a 260 miler relay, 100 miler relay, and it looks like I can't quite see the rest of it. Let me click on here, see if I can see. Okay, yeah, so it's 260 miler relay, 100k 100 miler, 50k 100 miler relay, and then a 50k relay for that one. So you can get all these details on ultrasignup.com. And our third event is Go Aloha Yourself Backyard Ultra. That is going to be on Oahu. And let me actually click into this. I think this is a live event, but I just want to make sure it's not a virtual event. Yeah, it's saying on the island of Oahu. So that looks like that's an in-person event as far as I can tell. And that should be fun if you are going to be in Oahu around Friday, April 22nd of 2022 at 9 a.m. Then maybe you should sign up for the Go Aloha Yourself Backyard Ultra. All right, so the next event is Under the Moon, and that is, did I already say this one? No, I didn't. Under the Moon, that's going to be Saturday, June 11th, 2022, so that's pretty far ahead. That's going to be in Hilo, Hawaii, and that's a 200K, 100K, 100K relay, 50K relay, and then it looks like there's a couple other events in there. Check these out on ultrasignup.com, and you can see what I'm seeing. It'll probably be more clear than my explanations. Looking at hawaiiRunningLab.com. Sorry, I just punched the microphone on accident. Looking at hawaiiRunningLab.com, it looks like they've got a pretty neat thing going. It is the Aloha Bingo virtual event, and so as far as I understand, you can visit hawaiiRunningLab.com and look at their events section if you want to see the details. Under events, it's Hawaii Running Labs Aloha Bingo, and as far as my interpretation of this is, you register for their bingo and then you get a card, like a bingo card, and you also get the I guess stickers to place on the different areas of the bingo card. And then they've got different things, different accomplishments. So for instance, like a 45-minute run or 60-minute run, go get a massage, and then they are of course integrating I guess local business partners into this bingo card. So some of the things are you have to go visit a business and get a massage, or grab a meal at a locally owned restaurant, stuff like that. So go to hawaiiRunningLab.com. If you live on the island of Oahu, this is probably going to be better for you, or if you travel to Oahu at all, then you could probably do good on this one. And so, yeah, just go and look for, the rest of the details. There's more to it than just that, but that's just the gist of it. Something interesting there. And then I did also notice that they, in their shop, it looks like they're having a sale on a lot of their gear, and I really like their singlets and their tech tees. I've had several of them, and they last a long time. They're good quality. I don't know exactly what all they carry now, but the stuff that I've had in the past was like New Balance, so it was high quality, and of course it's got the Hawaii Running Lab logo, and then they've got some other cool designs. Looks like they've got some neat trucker hats as well. I've had a couple of their HRL trucker hats in the past. So yeah, and then if you are, in the islands and you are able to get to Oahu, you can utilize their services, Hawaii Running Lab services. I have met with Dr. Garrison in the past, and he gave me some really good advice that helped me sort of get back on track with my running regimen. And then, I've heard a lot of good things from other people that have also used his services, I guess, or his advice. But he can tell you about nutrition and all things running. So, yep, hawaiiRunningLab.com. They're not a sponsor. I just really I like them, and I like their stuff, and I like the owner. So I always try to mention them. Plus they're kind of like, I guess, local to the islands. So shout out to them. All right. So let's see. Next up, I thought I had a little bit more races pulled up, but I guess I don't. I guess I've closed that window. But I mean, you're not above going online and typing in Hawaii running events 2021, right? You can do that. You don't need me to do that for you. I kind of hit the high points on the ultra events, and then like next time, I promise I'll have a better list. But anyway, I feel like I've spent long enough rambling on about events. So let's move on to something else. I've already talked about the site, so let me close that out. I'm kind of just going through a bunch of open tabs here, so bear with me. Yeah, so I think that's sort of it on the business end. Now we'll just get into, I guess, just talking about the past 8 months. So hopefully you're doing well. I'm doing all right. You know, the world is a completely different place from a year or two ago, and some ways it's good and some ways it's bad, but yeah, just trying to focus on the positives. I'm glad to be back out running. Part of the reason that I haven't been doing these podcasts is I really haven't had time to do anything other than work, and also do school stuff. I really didn't even have a lot of time to do school stuff. I've been really, really busy with work for the last little bit, and so now that school's over, I've gotten a little bit more free time. But I've been trying to get back on the wagon, running pretty consistently, and I've also incorporated working out. So I'll do some fan bike, and then also kettlebells and calisthenics, but we'll get into that in a minute. So I've been trying to get myself back to the way I was before, because I was working so much. I literally, there were actually months that went by, like weeks just ran together, and even weekends I missed some family vacation just working to try to get some stuff pushed through. And so in doing that, I was always at my computer. I stopped running, which was just crazy for me, because I pretty much consistently ran every day before that. I gained like 20 pounds, and that's kind of a conservative estimate. And so I started back a couple weeks ago in a pretty bad place, and still even trying to get back up to the level that I was at before. It's rough, and so that's given me a much better appreciation, a little bit more empathy for people that come and join me, or came and joined me before on some hikes or some runs, especially like my son. It's given me a lot more, I guess, clarity on like what those people are experiencing, right? Because I'm kind of I'm getting back accustomed to doing the distances that I do, and doing that at a running pace, and so it's been tough. My brain wants to do it, but my body just will not cooperate right now. So it's just a matter of conditioning and training back up to that level, and it's just going to take time, I believe. But I'm glad to say that I have been consistently running about 4 times a week. I'll usually go on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday up to Volcano National Park and do some runs inside the park area. I quit. Before I get too far ahead, on the days that I'm not running, I try to do something at home. So I'll do the calisthenics or the the fan bike, stuff like that, that I can do around the house. I also I built a part of a home climbing wall, like a very small part of it. I've got plenty more that I need to build out, but I've got a small piece of climbing wall that I can use right now. and then eventually I'll get the rest put up. But yeah, just time constraints kind of. That's why I've only got part of it put up. And plus, the part that I put up is sort of like straight up and down, and I want to have some that's at an angle, but I'm going to have to do some more advanced math and sort of plot that out structurally a little bit better than the one that's just sort of like straight up and down. So yeah, so I've got that, and we've got a outside garage sort of area. It's like a covered area. We use it, we keep the grill under there and some outdoor furniture and, like a basketball hoop and some other stuff. But I just put the fan bike out there and all of the, the weights and the mats and everything. So that's a good place to do all that exercise, and because it's a little bit cooler than trying to do it inside. It's been super humid, especially the last like month or two. It's been raining a lot and just humid. It kind of sucks to do that stuff indoors. It's better to do it outside where there's a little bit of convection, a little bit of wind blowing to keep you cool. And the fan bike is way better outside, I think, than it ever was inside. Inside, it just sort of like blew stuff everywhere. It was hard to manage inside, but outside you don't have to really worry about that. So yeah, been working out on days that I'm not running. I said all that just to make that point. And so I'm trying to stay consistently pretty active. You may be thinking, well, why don't you just run every day like you were before? That's an excellent question. The answer to that is, I guess, the diplomatic way to say it, Hawaii, especially Big Island, is not, like most other places, is not immune to, like, I guess, the impact that the pandemic's had. And just, some of the societal shifts that are happening right now as a result of the pandemic and other, I guess, current events. So a lot has changed in Hawaii over the past 5 or 6 years that we've lived here. It's sort of a different place now than it used to be. But long story short, I quit running around the neighborhood that I live in because I started to notice it was very obvious that crime was on the rise, and there were some situations that happened that I just didn't feel safe being out running in the neighborhood or between my neighborhood and the next one over. I've talked about it before, I think, on the podcast, but I had, I believe it was last year, I think it was still in 2020, I had an incident where I was gone for about 2 hours. I left my truck parked down in Pahoa Long Beach Road. Gone about 2 hours, ran down to the lava flow and back, and the cops were at my car, or at my truck, when I came back, and somebody had broken in. They'd broken in by shooting out the window, like with a gun, and so the bullet ricocheted. It broke the window, ricocheted all over the interior of my truck, and then they stole like a phone, a wallet, a first aid kit, and then maybe a couple other items like out of the glove box or whatever. So that was a bummer, and it sucked losing my phone for sure. I mean, think about if you lost your phone suddenly and had to replace that, basically, because I had to shut that off immediately, so they couldn't get my information or use any of the cards and stuff that were stored on that device. All of your cards, they took my wallet, so like all of my cards, I had to get them replaced, and so that was bad enough and an inconvenience enough. But then I also had to take my truck to the shop and get like $1,000 worth of repairs done on it, and the time that it took to do all those repairs, just from that I guess it was a single bullet. Maybe it was two, but ricocheting all over and just causing damage to the interior. And so that sucked. But so that was one incident that happened. The second incident that happened was a little bit more recent, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. I was running in between my neighborhood and the next one over, which is, I think there's like a good 8 miles between the two. I may be wrong on that guesstimate, but I think that's pretty close. I would usually run about 3 miles out and then 3 miles back to my neighborhood. And I always felt relatively safe doing that. It's sort of a sketchy area, but during the daytime, I never felt too at risk. And one day I was running on a Saturday. I can't remember if it was a Saturday morning or a Saturday afternoon, but at the turnaround point, I had done my 3 miles out. I turned around. Of course, there's not many houses or any houses at that turnaround point, and so there's really nobody out there. These vehicles were coming, and I had already turned around, so they were coming up behind me. I could hear gunshots, or what I thought were gunshots. I don't really know, like, even to this day, if it was actually gunshots. It could have been like like a misfire, like the vehicle was misfiring or something. They just had like really loud mufflers, but I'm pretty sure it was gunshots, because it was just it wasn't like usually with the engine misfire, and it's kind of like a temporary thing, and then once it builds up to a certain RPM, it'll quit. And also these were sort of like so random. The I guess the quote unquote shots that I'm pretty sure it was gunfire. So the other thing too is, like, these vehicles were coming up behind me. I hear these shots, and so of course I'm terrified. But there's really no place for me to go because on both sides of this gravel road, it's just thick, brush. I can't really go anywhere. I'm kind of stuck at the gravel road, and so I mean, all that I could think to do was just sort of like keep going and hope for the best. And so, like, as I'm going, the cars eventually get up beside me, and I think the guy was just like messing with me. But the driver of the first vehicle like stuck his hand out really quick, and of course, like I'm already primed to think like this guy's gonna have a gun in his hand, but like he sticks his hand out really quick and like does a shaka. If you don't know what a shaka is, you can Google it, but basically it's just like a greeting, but he's laughing, and you kind of get the implied effect of like he's messing with me, like he's sticking his hand out and doing the shaka really abruptly and like making loud noise like as he does it, just to kind of mess with me, because they had been presumably shooting out of their car before. And so there's no noise as they pass me, and then as they get up a little bit ahead, you start hearing the shots again. So I'm pretty sure it was gunshots. And it was kind of a rougher looking crowd in both of the vehicles. Like, both the vehicles are max full. I don't know what they were doing, but yeah. So just being out in the middle of nowhere and then having that happen, I lost all feeling of safety to run around, because it seems like there's not any places you can go that's sort of like immune to that kind of activity out in the open. So I've just chosen to go up to the national park, and that's not to say that I'm 100% safe up there, but at least there's the illusion of safety. But I tell you, like, even running up at the national park, I was on a particular trail that I like to run. I couldn't even tell you the name of the trail. It starts at the parking lot where you go out to Pu'u Hulu Hulu, That's not the name of the actual parking lot. I cannot remember. It's like a shorter name, but anyway, the trail goes from there up to where the lava tubes are, the Thurston lava tubes. On that trail, like inside the park area on park property, I came. I was running actually downhill, and I turned a corner, and I'm coming downhill, and of course, like this is within the park boundaries, but still, this particular trail is not frequented too much. Like people will get on it with mountain bikes because there's about a 4 mile section where um, it's sort of remote, I guess. There's not You're not going to see like that many people there because there's just really not too much to see on that section of trail. I think that people go out and ride horses on it, and of course, there's people like me that run, and I see where people do like mountain biking and stuff like that. But I've very rarely seen like other people out on that trail. Like very very rarely. It's not a super populated place most of the time. But at any rate, my point is that even on that trail inside the park boundaries, I'm going down hill, I come around a corner. There's 4 or 5 hunting dogs that see me and then start running straight towards me. And I was fortunate; I didn't have anything really to fend them off. I may have had dog spray at that time, but I don't think I don't think I did. I don't think I was carrying it with me that day. Because I'd never experienced anything like this within the park boundaries before. But these dogs got within 4 or 5 feet of me, and I was fortunate that they decided not to attack me for whatever reason. But they were super like pissed and like barking and stuff, and so no matter how tough you are, 4 or 5 dogs, especially hunting dogs, a lot of times the hunters won't feed them, and so they're just voracious, and they're on the hunt. They're looking for pigs or whatever, and so they're already like in that mindset, and so it's very tough to fight off dogs. It's very tough to fight off a dog, especially tough to fight off like multiple dogs. And so like 4 or 5 of them, I wouldn't have personally stood a chance if they would have started attacking me. I very well could have died that day. But anyway, I'm being dramatic. They did not attack me. They went back to their owner eventually, but it seemed like forever before they backed off. And so I'm not really sure how all the laws and stuff works on the national park area. I don't know if like if like certain populations have the rights to hunt inside the property. I think like fishing, certain populations have the right to fish in the waters, off the park boundary or whatever. I'm not an expert at this, so forgive me. I don't know like all the ins and outs, but I didn't give these people like a huge amount of static. I was just kind of, as diplomatic as I could be, just kind of let them know like, hey, that's pretty scary. I wasn't expecting to see a bunch of hunting dogs out here. It was just like it was pretty startling. But at that point, I'm not about to like start getting to like a verbal sparring or trying to like, as long as I'm not getting eaten by dogs, I'm good. And I just went on about my business and let them do the same. But I mean, like even within the national park, like you're gonna have these encounters, and they were all cool. Like I mean, I guess I don't really know. I didn't speak to them that much, but their dogs didn't eat me, and they didn't try to like stab me. So win-win. But there are a fair amount of I mean, for lack of a better word, idiots that come to visit the park as well. And so you'll encounter like silly people. I don't know what it is, but like there's this prevailing attitude. People that visit Hawaii or maybe that are new living here have some kind of like very malformed belief that this place is magical and nothing bad ever happens here. And so you'll see people do all kinds of stupid stuff. And people will bring like a mainland attitude to the island as well. And, you just kind of like got to bite your tongue and deal with some of that. But I haven't experienced that frequently within the park boundaries. You just have to watch out for like, so this is like a mild example, but like today I'm going out, I'm driving to where I want to start running, and like I'm going past the entrance to the Thurston lava tubes. There's, a road. It's just a normal road, 2-lane. You got some traffic going one way, some traffic going the other. The parking lot is just right off the road. Basically just turn off and park. And so what will happen from time to time, people will get out of their car on one side of the road and then just sort of like walk across the road wherever they're parked. So in other words, they don't like go down and utilize the crosswalk. Okay, yeah, no big deal. Whatever. I mean, yeah, you should technically use the crosswalk, but I don't really care. The speed limit through there is like 15. So I'm always doing, 15 or less. And, it's never a big deal to put on the brakes for people. And so that kind of thing, it doesn't bother me. But today there were a couple of older guys and they were just walking down the middle of the road. Like instead of just crossing over, they were actually going down to the crosswalk, but they were just walking in the middle of the road. So nobody could go until they got down to the crosswalk and then, made their left turn and went into the Thurston lava tubes. But just that kind of stupidity. And like one of them actually looked back and saw that I was behind them and just continued to walk in the middle of the road. Just for the hell of it, I guess. But yeah, so you'll run into that and you just gotta bite your tongue and like press on. Don't linger on it. But yeah. So but then you get like other people too, they're just like, woohoo, crazy, let's I don't know. Let's jump off this cliff or whatever. Yeah. So yeah. So I'm relegated to running at that national park, but it's not so bad because I love it up there. And I'm able to do it. And so I'm thankful to have the park. I know like there's been times in recent history where the park's actually been closed because of the volcanic activity. And those times were actually a pretty big bummer because I do enjoy going up there and utilizing it. And so the more I can do it now, the less I'll regret, next time, maybe if the park has to close, not being able to go inside. So yep, hopefully that wasn't too boring, but just kind of giving you an idea of why I don't run every day anymore. Because it requires a road trip now. Just running out on the road, don't really feel safe. Or even running around the neighborhood. I think within my neighborhood as well, there's so another thing that happens in Hawaii, it's kind of like it's par for the course, very typical. Like people will have a dog. It's not really like the family dog. I don't think there's any amount of compassion or care that's provided to these animals other than just like feeding them and keeping them alive. They'll have like maybe like a dog house out in the yard, but the dog will stay chained to a post and they will stay in the yard 24/7 for the entirety of their lives. And so that's pretty common around here, at least on Big Island. I don't know about the other islands, but that's just something that happens. And then sometimes people have a gated yard or a fenced yard and they'll let dogs run around inside. And so The main reason for this, I think, is just security, just to have that animal in the yard in case somebody comes on to like, somebody's tweaking or somebody's trying to steal your stuff. It's just a deterrent for the criminal element, I think. Uh, so, like my point being, these dogs are all over, like all over. You can hear them barking all the time, and you just sort of know they're there. What happens to a dog when you leave it out and you don't care for it and you just like chuck food at it once or twice a day? Over time, they become antisocial and they start to get quote unquote aggro, and they get a bad attitude towards humans, especially strangers. Whether the stranger is actually doing anything or not, whether the stranger is actually on your property or not, the dogs stay pissed off, a permanent state of pissed off. And so, especially if you're running, that's sort of like a trigger for dogs, or for a lot of animals, domestic and wild. If you're running by, that's a stimulation. It triggers some primal desire inside the animal to make them want to pursue you. And so running inside the neighborhoods become treacherous. I've had my own encounters with dogs, pit bulls, and other like large, sort of scary breeds, where I've been, they've lurched at me, or they've, given chase. And that has been pretty frightening for me, especially since I'm just minding my own business on the main road. Not, I don't cut through people's property or anything like that. But yeah, I've had several dogs give chase and sort of scare me. I've been bitten in the past, not since we moved to Hawaii, thank goodness, but when we lived back in Atlanta, I actually got bit by someone's dog that they were just left unleashed, and it was a family pet just roaming around another park. It wasn't a national park, it's like a state park, and I got bit. And so that sucked for me, because concern on mainland is of course rabies. This being a family pet, I wasn't as hyper concerned about that, but still, I'm a paranoid person in general, and I always think of all the worst things that could happen. So for a little bit, I was scared about the holes in my leg, and it took forever to heal as well, those deep puncture wounds. So I can only imagine, like, that was a family pet. Like, if one of these aggro dogs from around the neighborhood got a hold of me, or even worse, a feral dog, because there are quite a few of those too. People will just let them out, or they don't want them anymore, or whatever. They'll let them go, or they'll run away and they'll become wild and just sort of like hateful, ornery, mean. And yeah, if it was something like that was getting after you, I mean, just thinking about how terrible that would be. But a real thing that happened here in the neighborhood, I think a lady actually had to go to the emergency room a couple weeks ago because she got attacked, and the damn dog nearly killed her. I think she was pretty close to not being alive anymore. I think she ended up living. I would have to do some research, but yeah. So that's another reason I don't run around just the neighborhood in general. Most of the time, probability is you're going to be pretty safe on any given day. I don't want to paint the picture that the neighborhood is a hellscape. It's really not. It's just that if the stars align and a dog happens to be loose one day, or is able to jump the fence or whatever, somebody leaves the gate open and you just happen to be there, opportunity strikes and the dog rips your leg off. That's not good. So I don't take that chance. I've had, like I said, dogs chase me around the neighborhoods, but nothing ever, they never bit me yet. Knock on wood. So yeah, so up at the park's better. The only thing you really have to look out for, you don't really have to look out for anything, but there's geese, there's, some other birds and pigs, and Mongoose. I've never had a mongoose run at me. They've always, run away well before I get there. I don't. I'm assuming if you were to like try to grab one, it would probably like bite the crap out of you. But I won't ever do that. So pretty safe there. Pigs. I've had a bunch of encounters with wild boars, and I've never had one charge me. And again, knock on wood. I've had some scared ones, sort of run across my path or run away from me, and so, you know, that's always good. There's a moment when you first see them, especially if they're startled and they're darting around. There's a moment like a couple seconds where it's sort of iffy, and you're it's sort of like all up in the air. You're waiting to see if they're gonna turn and run at you, versus either keep going in a straight line away from you in some direction. There's a couple sketchy seconds, but every single time I've always had them run away from me, and that's been in several different areas. So I think it's fairly safe to say that behavior is pretty normal for wild boars, at least on Big Island. I mean, I think there's other species of wild boar that are a little bit more aggressive, that will actually try to like charge you and eat you, but not here from my experience. So yeah, I feel like I said a lot of things that maybe I didn't need to say, just to sort of make the point that I've been running up at the national park. But yeah, now you know why. And so that's been going pretty good. I've gotten some new gear, and then I've run into some disappointment trying to get replacements for some old gear. I guess I can talk a little bit about that. So I guess we'll start with the sort of bad. I got a new pair of shorts a little while back, and I was pretty excited about getting them. I had gotten a pair for my son. I wanted to get him more interested in running, and coming out with me, like joining me, because I wanted him to see some more places around the island. His favorite thing to do is be on the computer or be on a video game, and he would do that like all day, every day if you let him. And so for a little bit I was trying to see if I could pique his interest and get him going with me on some shorter runs, but it didn't ever take, and so he's back on his computer. We'll try again, maybe this year or next. His interest may change a little bit, but I didn't really want to force the issue. Running something that I like to do, and I would love to have him join me. I would love to have him sort of build his experience with running and seeing some different places around the island, because I don't think that we're gonna stay here forever. And so from that respect, just like having some memories of the place, other than being at home playing video games while he lives here. But yeah, so I had gotten him a pair of these, but the brand name is Rabbit, and I guess these are a California brand, made in Vietnam. I ordered these shorts. I don't know the actual model. I'm pretty sure they are a 5-inch inseam. They're just a running short, and they're nice. I mean, they're good quality, and the liner is very soft, and they've got some pockets, some pretty good pockets around the waistband, or actually, yeah, there's 2 pockets around the waistband in the front, and then 1 zipper pocket in the back. And it's a pretty soft material. It looks like it would be pretty durable. I believe it's like a ripstop nylon type outer, I guess, shell, and then the liner is like a softer um, synthetic material. The only drawback to these is that they are like my size is large, and I thought I had measured myself uh, and checked against their sizing chart, but these shorts, for whatever reason, they seem to run small. Now, also, like I said before, I've gained a lot of weight, in the last couple of months, and I'm trying to lose that again. But that could be a lot of it. But these shorts are pretty ill-fitting at this point. And so I got some other shorts from Smartwool, and so that's kind of like I guess the brighter side of this tale. I got some shorts from Smartwool, and again, I always get the 5-inch inseam. Reason being, or my logic behind it, was just it's going to be a cooler short, and you also don't have as much material. And so if I'm out running or hiking or whatever, I really don't need the extra 3 inches of material on my shorts. I mean, I guess it's personal preference, but it's added weight, even though it's very nominal. And then, I mean, I know I roll to that statement. Like the amount of weight is very minuscule, but I mean, it's just added material, added weight, whatever, that I just don't personally need. And also, it's probably gonna make the short a little bit hotter to have it longer. I guess that's my logic. So I just always like the 5-inch inseam. I guess I do like Reno 911, and so Lieutenant Dangle is a favorite, along with Terry, and they, I think, would prefer 5-inch inseam or shorter, but that's not why I get these. It's just for the coolness, the cooling effect. And yeah, I don't, the other thing too, like when you have longer shorts and you get like sweaty, the short sticks to your knee sometimes. And so like you're trying to run and have like a full range of motion, but the short is kind of like stuck on your knee, and so you have trouble like articulating your knee, I guess, or your leg. You don't really have trouble, but it's just like you can feel that tension, and it's just easier to not have the short reach over your kneecap. So yeah, I ended up, these I'll just keep, these rabbit shorts, I'll just keep them, and maybe after I shed some pounds, go back and try to wear them again. But they seem to be just like an odd cut, right? More so than the size itself. It's just a very odd cut. Like they fit fine in some places, but then like are very tight, like in the middle of the leg part, which is just weird. So the jury's kind of like out on these overall, because it could just be that I have gotten fat, and that's why they don't fit well anymore. I don't remember them ever fitting well though, like ever since I got them. But I got the Smartwool shorts. I don't know the exact like name, the model of them, but if you go on Smartwool's site and you look up running shorts 5-inch inseam, those are probably the ones that I got. Those are size large, and they fit fine. They fit really good, actually. They're super soft, and I've not worn them on a super long run. I think I've run about 11 or 12 miles in them, and I don't get the chafing that I got from an older pair of Smartwool shorts. The older pair that I have, I think I would have got these like back in like 2000. maybe was it 2010? I don't know. It's been a while, but these were old model of Smartwool shorts, and the liner inside of them was just like a really like the material. I don't know if it was wool or what it was. I mean, I'm assuming it was merino wool, but like those shorts were terrible to wear for runs because they would just chafe. Like I remember I was bleeding after a couple of runs like wearing those, but the new Smartwool shorts thus far, I've not had that same experience. So they fit really good. And I also picked up a couple of their shirts as well, like I guess kind of tech tees. And so those are the men's merino sport 150 tech tee, and those I think are all merino wool, or they may be some sort of blend, but I like them. And the reason I like them is they're super comfortable. The cut is for me is pretty perfect, right? So they're not too bulky, like they don't have too much excess material, but they're also not like a super duper athletic fit. And so you can breathe a little bit, and they're, I guess, like flattering to my form, which is kind of Pillsbury Doughboyish right now. But yeah, the men's merino sport 150 tech tee, I've enjoyed having these. They're warm even when they're wet because of the wool. So that's another great thing, because on this side of the island it rains quite a bit, and so especially lately I've been finding myself running in the rain, and I've got a shell that I'll wear over whatever I'm wearing to run in. But I mean, even if you're wearing the shell, you're gonna sweat underneath, and so that shirt is going to get moisture in it, and you don't want to be in something that is not going to be warm. Like cotton is probably the worst thing, but I don't know many runners that wear cotton, but I'm just saying that cotton's probably one of the worst things, as far as like if it gets wet you're going to get cold and stay cold while you're in it. You're actually better off like just taking off the cotton shirt and having no shirt on than having a wet cotton shirt on. But anyways, I feel like I'm saying things that people already know, but yeah. So anyway, that's another plus for the smart wool stuff, because it does have that merino wool, and it's warm even when it's wet. And so the other thing too, like I mean, I live here every day, subtropical climate. Even on sunny days when it's about as warm as it ever is here, I can wear the smart wool shirts and I'm cool. It's not like overheat situation. So I haven't done any runs on like the Kona side of the island in the smart wool. So I don't know. Maybe it would be too hot over there, but I'll let you know once I do some runs over there. But I don't think I think it'll be fine. And so I picked up, several pairs of the shorts, and then several of the tech tees, just because I liked them so much. I always like their tees, like even the old ones that I've had were great, and they're durable too. You just have to watch out because moths love to eat wool. So that includes all of your super expensive smart wool stuff. They'll chow down on that too. That's what happened to my old pair. Moth like ate holes in it. so yeah, watch out for that. But I mean, other than that, it's really durable stuff. It's lasted for a long time. I wish I could remember the exact year that I got that. The oldest smart wool stuff that I have, but I know it's been more than 6 years. It's probably been closer to like 8 or 10. Yeah, so super durable stuff. Um, all right, so that's enough about smart wool. What else? As far as hydration, I because of the amount of time that passed where I wasn't running, um, I had a subscription on Amazon for Scratch, and so I was still getting Scratch like pretty regularly, but I wasn't ever using it um, because I wasn't running. So I have like a stockpile of Scratch now in the kitchen cupboard, and that there's no real point to me telling you that other than that's just funny to me because now I've got this huge stockpile. It used to be that I would worry about running out, but now, at least for the short term, I've got so much, like I'm kept in Scratch. But anyway, so like in the same vein of hydration, I've all but given up on the Hydro Flask. Is that what they're called? No, it's not a Hydro Flask. I forgot the brand name, but the soft flasks that come with Solomon vests. You know the ones. But I could never keep those from rupturing. Like all of them eventually would rupture, or they would be like too cumbersome inside of the vest. Like the cost versus benefit, like it didn't measure out like in the end. So I got tired of dealing with them. I just finally I broke down and bought a 3 liter bladder from the same company that makes the soft flask, but it's a 3 liter bladder, which is huge. It fits perfectly inside of the Solomon vest that I have though. And if I'm not going to be going on a run where I'll use that 3 liters of water or Scratch, I guess. If I'm not going to be on that long of a run, I just don't take anything anymore. Because I just got tired of dealing with the flasks. Like they're hard to clean. And in Hawaii with the humidity and like mold will try to grow inside, and it's just hard to get to all the places and keep those things squeaky clean all the time. So the bladders are actually way easier for some reason to keep clean and to use. And the only sort of like breaking point that I've found on the bladders is like the more rigid plastics, like the connectors where the tubing connects into the bladder, or the other end where the mouthpiece is. Like those pieces will break, but you can easily just order a replacement off the website and fix those. But like the bladders themselves have been good. Like I've not had one rupture yet. So anyways, but I guess, that's personal preference and whatever you need. For me, I'm just going to use that 3 liter bladder or nothing. I figure I can hydrate enough at the truck before and after. Unless it's, like if I was going to go like run in the desert or somewhere where it was going to be like super hot, I would probably take a flask or take my big 3 liter bladder out there, even for a short run, and just chalk it up to training. Yeah. So I feel like a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about is probably not that interesting to most people, but there's not probably a lot of people that are going to listen to this anyway, so I'll just keep going. Belega socks are my favorite thing to wear for running. I'm sort of a creature of habit, and so I don't typically try a lot of new things. I'm not averse to trying new things, but typically when I get a product that I like, I sort of want to stick with it. And I had been using like Patagonia shorts for a long time. I had bought several pairs of Patagonia shorts, but their build quality just really declined recently, or in recent years. I don't know if they've gotten better, but I bought a pair about like a year ago, I guess, or maybe it was 2 years ago. And unlike the ones that I had purchased before then, this newer pair of shorts was like totally demolished, like just from regular use. Just the seams ripped like on the inner thigh, and it just was a total letdown because those shorts are super expensive, like US probably around like $70 or $80 for like a nothing pair of shorts. It's like a 5-inch inseam running short. The previous models were comfortable and very durable, but this newer pair was not durable and very uncomfortable actually. So I gave up on Patagonia, but they would have had a customer for life if they would have just kept making those Strider Pro shorts exactly the way that they started off making them. But they just, I don't know, I think they used like cheaper materials or something, but yeah, they messed those up. And so that's sort of an example of why I would change, but just short of that, like I usually just pick stuff and stick with it. So Smart Wool for shorts, I primarily I've used two brands of socks that I really, really like. I've used a lot of brands of socks, but there's only been two that were sort of standouts. And the first one was Thorlos. And so I really like those. Thorlos, Thorlos. And I would get their thicker sort of ankle, what do you call it? Like ankle cut trail running socks. And then Belega I like a lot. And let me see if I can find. Yeah, so the Enduro Quarter is the sock that I really like from Belega. And so I'd had some trouble getting Belega shipped to Hawaii in the past. They would still ship them here, but what would happen is that the order would it would be delayed. And so what I would do, I mean, we're talking like a long time delayed, like a month. And it wouldn't say delayed. It would just like the tracking was very vague. It would just, it would look like the package was lost. And so I would submit a query to Belega, and then they would always ship out a duplicate order, like kind of along the logic of, well, I guess the first one is lost. Won't make the customer happy. And so I would get the replacement order, and then like shortly after I would get the original order. And so what ended up happening, this happened twice. Like I would order 4 pairs of socks, but I would get like 8 pairs of socks. Well, I guess that's kind of cool, but I'm the kind of person that like if I get something, like I want to make sure that I paid for it, or I don't want to like just keep your socks. But I did want the socks, but I want, like even though I only ordered 4, by the time I got 8 pairs, like I wanted those 8 pairs. And so on both occasions I tried to contact Belega, and I actually did end up getting through to someone, but it was very difficult to sort of, I don't know why, but it was very difficult to explain what had happened, and then try to explain that I wanted to pay for both orders, right? The original order that had come late, and then also the replacement order that had come. I wanted to make sure that I paid for both orders, and so they were always kind of perplexed. And what would happen is it would just end up with them saying, nope, if we haven't billed you, then you just wait to see if it comes up, later. Like if we find it, then we'll bill you or whatever. So it was like, okay. But still, I never felt really good about that because I know, like to make the socks is not free. And there's workers that, they go to work every day and they make these socks and that's their job. And then they get paid off the profits from people like me that purchase these items. And so like if I'm just taking socks or if an order gets messed up and they lose money on socks, it's just it's a spillover, not spillover, but it goes back to them, and they may not get paid as much, or I don't know, like you get my drift though. Like it's going to impact the company, and so it may impact like the people that work there, and so that just doesn't rest well with me. But also I think in a bigger picture, like for the company itself, like I guess they probably had that same scenario happen enough to where now they have cut off shipping outside the contiguous states, and so they no longer ship to Hawaii. So when I went on to Belega site to order some more socks, they don't ship them to Hawaii anymore. So that was a bummer. The good news is I can find them at other online vendors, so like REI or Backcountry or Moose Jaw or somewhere like that. I can try to locate them there. I've said this before. I don't buy socks off of Amazon or really like clothing, I guess, at all, just because there's a lot of fake stuff, and I have had fake items sent to me, and it looks so much like the real thing. Like, so I know like some people say that, and then like sometimes you'll look at it and you'll be like, no, this is clearly fake. How could you not? Are you stupid? Like, how could you not know this is fake? But I'm telling you, like, I'm pretty intelligent, like in that regard, like spotting fake stuff or like, knowing what's real or not. And so I would get these things and like socks, for example, and it would look like almost exactly identical as the real thing. But then like when you would go like in a little bit closer and just like, flip the sock inside out, look at the quality of the, like the stitching and the seams and stuff, it would be different from the actual like real pairs that I had already. And so I knew something was up, or like the logo would be like much bigger. And it just didn't make sense, like why they would change the design from the way it was to like a bigger logo or whatever. But like the quality of the seams was like a big giveaway. And the feel of the material as well. But Belega socks, the real ones are great. The fake ones that I got off of Amazon inadvertently, they're still around. Like they've been durable, but I don't use them to run in. I just use them to knock around the house, I guess. I just chalk that up to a learning lesson and just kept them. I didn't send them back. I just wear them around the house or whatever. So, but yeah, I would advise not buying anything that you sort of depend on like that, because especially if you're running on like remote trails, even though it's something so kind of tiny or insignificant, I guess as like socks, you kind of are relying on all your gear when you're out doing these activities. And so you want to have the best, I guess, that you can possibly have, or the most dependable. Again, maybe this is a little bit too dramatic, but yeah, I would rather have the real socks from Belega than the Amazon rip-off ones. I guess it's the same thing. Like, would you rather have Ultra shoes, or would you rather have like a fake rip-off one that might, tear up or disintegrate or not be the same technology or not use the same quality materials or whatever. All right, so I beat that into the ground. But long story short, I was able to get some replacement Enduro quarter Balegas from REI. And so I guess that's a win. I usually get black, but I had to end up getting blue because that's all they had in stock. But I get membership rewards for it. So, woohoo. Since we moved to Hawaii, I only do like online orders from REI. We don't get to visit the actual stores because they don't have any here. So that's the only way I get those membership rewards. So maybe I'll get a check next year or something. I don't know. The dividend check or whatever. All right. So, yeah, I feel like most of everything that I've talked about up until now wasn't that interesting. I hope that it was interesting for you, at least a little bit. Obviously, it must have been because you're still here, unless you just fast forwarded. So let's see. Some other things that maybe are a little bit more interesting. I recently was at Target, and I'm a big fan, or not a big fan, but I'm a fan of sort of like honky tonk country. Like I like a lot of genres of music, but when I was a kid, my mom listened to a lot of country music, so a lot of these songs I still remember, like Waylon Jennings, Alabama, Johnny Cash, and some others. But Willie Nelson, of course, was prevalent during the 80s, which was the time I was growing up. And as I'm older now, like I'm starting to enjoy Willie Nelson's sense of humor and his music even more. Starting to appreciate it. But yeah, so I've had a couple of long runs where I just would listen to the Willie Nelson station on Spotify, Willie Nelson Radio or whatever. And I was at Target the other day. I don't get out that much, but I just happened to be at Target and was looking in their book section, which I don't hardly ever do. I usually do audiobooks from Audible because I'll play the audiobook while I'm doing something else, like going for a run or something like that. But they had this book, Willie Nelson's Letters to America. And it's just a collection of Willie Nelson's jokes and some letters that he actually wrote to various people, including America. And so there's some of his songs as well, like song lyrics. So it's pretty interesting. Just to the small part of it that I've read so far. It's a nice little book, just something to read like before bed or something like that. But I enjoy Willie Nelson, and I've enjoyed this book, Willie Nelson's Letters to America, with Turk Pipkin, it says. And so that's one cool thing. I also started another audiobook on today's run, actually. And I'll have to look at this one to give you the title. But it's about a guy, Raven. I had read sort of like a condensed article about his story in Runner's World or Trail Running Magazine, something like that. But the name of the book is Running with Raven. It's by Laura Lee Huttenbach. And so it's the story of this guy, Raven. He lives in Miami. And I want to say like for the last 40 something years, he's been running 8 miles a day on a particular beach in Miami. And so there's a whole crew that has amassed over the years that runs with him. And so it's interesting to learn about this guy's life and then learn about like his approach and his feelings towards other people. Like for example, even somebody that he's just met, like he'll learn about them, like facts about them. He'll learn their birthday, and then like, years will pass. He won't see them. They'll come back. He'll remember all that stuff, like their name, their birthday, and stuff like that. So he's really in tune with the people that run with him. And I haven't gotten really far into it, but it's an interesting book or interesting audiobook so far. I like these kind of stories because they're more stories about people. They're loosely related to running, but they're not all about running. Like, so for me, ever since I've gotten into, I guess, the sport of running, it's always been more about the experience for me. Like I've always said, I'll run until it's not fun anymore. So like if it's not fun anymore, then I'm going to stop. Like if it doesn't add value to my life in that way, then I'm not interested in it. And so I've been fortunate personally that it's still fun for me and I still enjoy it, and I hope it will be for years to come. But like when you start talking about like negative splits or heart rate thresholds or stuff like that, I'm not really concerned about those things. Those things don't really like drive me, or I'm not interested in listening to those factoids about other people, or a story about that. And so I like to learn why people run, especially people that do it on a consistent basis. Like what's the reasoning behind that? Who are these people? Like what's their character? And so this story is great because it tells not only the story of Raven, and why he does what he does, but like all the other cast of characters that he has interacted with over the years. And so these are all real people. I said cast of characters, but I mean like these are all real people. It's a non-fiction book. And so that's been interesting. That was interesting on today's run. So yeah, let's see what else. Yep, sorry for that long pause. I was looking over just some notes that I wrote kind of sloppily. Actually, that was kind of part of the delay. I recently did a run with another person, which is pretty unusual for me, but I liked it. My personality is one where I sort of like, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind for me. It's not because I don't want to interact with other people, or I don't like other people or something like that. It's just that I have my own schedule, and I usually just do what I need to do each day, and I don't like usually think to go and ask somebody like, do you want to run with me or something like that. So I typically don't run with anybody else unless it's like my son or something. And then the other part of that too is that I've found historically, when I have asked people if they want to go run, most people don't want to do that. Like there's 1,000 things that they would rather do than go running, especially with me. So I've not had many occasions where I've run with somebody else, but every time I have run with somebody else, it's been great and I've enjoyed it. And so I don't have an aversion to it. It's just, I guess I'm lazy, or I just don't think to sort of arrange those type of events. But my point in saying all this is that I was recently out running, trying to get back in shape up at Volcano, and I ran into a local guy, Justin, and Alex, and a bunch of other of their crew, and they were running up at Volcano too, which is not like super abnormal, but these are people that I'm familiar with. I've seen before. They're a big part of the local running community, and you know, if there's ultra events that are going on like here or on mainland, you know, they're involved, or they're interested, or it's like that those type of people, I guess. So they're very, I guess, like topical to the world of ultra running, or just running in general. So I was happy to see them like up at the park, and also surprised. I was not running with them that day. I just like ran past them, and so like later on they ran by again and let me know that they have a running group like every Thursday up at Volcano, and to join them. So I did. It took me like a couple of weeks, but I just joined, or attempted to join everyone yesterday. Was it yesterday? Day before yesterday, on Thursday. But unfortunately, like, people were injured, or people were off the island, or whatever. So there was only one other person there, another local guy. So we had a run, and he's actually in sort of a similar field to what I am involved in work-wise. So we had a great conversation, and a good run. Like, it went by so fast. You know, not that I care, but it was interesting to see how fast it went by, like talking to somebody else and being sort of interested in what they had to say, and the conversation as well, like not paying attention to sort of like the passing of time. So it was interesting to have that aspect sort of added into my running experience, because usually I'm either listening to a podcast or in complete silence while I'm running by myself, and it seems to last forever, I guess. Not in like a miserable way, but it just, you know, time slows down, I guess. Or it seems to slow down, like when you're all alone and things are sort of like similar. Like, all the scenery doesn't look the same, but it's very, very similar. And so you sort of like, time is not as linear as it usually is, but yeah. So it was good to do a run with somebody else, and so I'm looking forward to hopefully doing that again. A lot of times with running, it's hard for people to sort of align, because you'll have different paces of runners, and so you may have like two good friends in regular life, but like one of them may run really, really fast, and the other one may run really, really slow. And so of course, like, one of them's maybe like embarrassed or self-aware, or like they don't want to hold the other person back, and then maybe the other person doesn't really care, or maybe the other person is slightly annoyed that, you know, their friend runs so slow. And so that can cause some kind of tension or whatever. And so sometimes that sort of keeps people from running in groups. But yeah, it's neat when everything lines up, and, you know, everybody's just cool, and you just run at a certain pace, and, you know, nobody wants to go faster, nobody wants to go slower, and then the conversation is pretty decent. So that was cool. I've had some runs like where I was sort of running like with strangers, like in the past, and they were a little bit younger than me, and so or a lot of bit younger than me, and so like I hate to say it, but now I'm becoming old school. So like, I remember after a run, a younger lady this was up on Mauna Kea, and so I had started my truck, like when we got back to our vehicles, I had started my truck as I was sort of like preparing all my, like changing my clothes and like sort of getting ready to drive back home. But I started my truck like as soon as we got back, because like I'm old school and I grew up in Chicago, and in the north, on the East Coast, where it's cold, right? And so sometimes you would plug your car in, like if it was a diesel, like you would plug it in overnight to keep it warm. Otherwise, your car wouldn't start the next day. Or, I mean, not that I was driving, but like I was observing this from my mom, my parent, but also, like living in Chicago as an adult, you had to start your car to warm it up, right? Because the heater, it gets hot based off the hot water that's running through the heater coil. And so I start my truck as soon as we get back, because I want my truck to get warm, because it was a little bit chilly. It wasn't like super cold up there, but I want it to be warm for my drive home. Like I heard this younger person, she didn't understand like that concept, and was like, it wasn't intended for me to hear, I don't think, but she was just like was talking to somebody else and was just like, he's weird. Like, what? He started his truck. Like, why is his truck running and he's not in the truck? He's weird. And so and so like there's some, I guess, like judgment that takes place that I could do without. Like I don't necessarily want to be called weird because somebody doesn't understand why I'm doing stuff. But then again, like I don't really care. So whatever. I mean, I guess I do kind of care, because I can still recall that particular instance. But yeah, it's no big deal. But that's another thing too. Like you get these interactions that you normally don't get if you're just like doing activities alone. So it can be a little bit different. It can be something that you got to get used to. But yeah, all in all, it's fine. Like it's a matter of falling into the right crew, I think. And you just know when it's a match. Like when we used to, of course I've changed a lot since then, but as far as like my likes, dislikes, attitudes, whatever. But when I was stationed on Okinawa, and this was sort of like back in the day, like 2000s, like early to like the actual year 2001, 2002, and I was doing the hashing stuff. Those kind of fun things where it's like sing song and there's beer or maybe not. I didn't drink that much back then, so I didn't usually drink beer, but like it was sort of like a fun environment. I guess today you would call it like I hate to use the word hazing. It wasn't really hazing. Nobody was getting hurt or being forced to do anything they didn't like really want to do. But like that whole like sort of being part of a fraternity, more or less, like just doing fun stuff like with the rabbits and the hares. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google hash house harriers or hashing on, or don't Google it. I don't know, whatever your browser preference is. Just search for hashing, and then you can find like all the rules. It's way too in depth to go into, but essentially what it boils down to, it's a drinking group with a running problem, I think is how they described. And so it's just, you've got a hare or two, right? Like a rabbit. So you've got the faster runners, and they will take off with like bags of flour. And so they go out and they make all these different markings with the bags of flour, and they try to guide you to the direction that they went in, but also they lay down like fake trails where it tries to give you like a fake route to make it take longer. And because the goal is like the hares go out and then the foxes or the hounds or whatever, they go later. And so basically there's one or two fast runners that go out and lay the trail, and then everybody else is just kind of chasing after them. And so the goal is to hopefully catch up with the hares. But this activity would happen like all over the place. So the hares would go out and then they would lay flower trails. There's different markings that they would put down that symbolize different things, like where to turn different directions, or if they went this way, or if it was, the end of the trail or whatever. But you could have trail that ran through like people's backyards. You could have trail that ran through viaducts, through a jungle, through a farm field. Like it kind of, there were no like traditional, I guess, like boundaries were kind of like not, they were ignored, right? And you would just have to follow the trail best you could to catch up with the hares. And so the goal was always to either beat them or catch them or whatever. So yeah, that's the gist of it. But then like at the end of it, you'd sit and sort of like reminisce, like not reminisce, but like recall like events that happened. And it was sort of, like joking and having fun. And then like, there were different things that you would do. Like if a person wears new shoes, like that's a rule. You never wear like brand new shoes. If you wear new shoes to a hashing event, then at the end you have to drink beer out of the shoe. That's what I'm talking about. There's nothing like major, just maybe like gross, like drinking beer out of your shoe, or drinking you never had to drink, like you didn't have to drink alcohol. You could drink like a Pepsi if you wanted to. Drink it out of your shoe. There was, a lot of little things like that. A lot of songs that, like a very 13-year-old kind of humorish. Yeah. But so I forgot what my point actually was, but like that crew, that was my point. That crew, even though they were strangers, there was sort of like a common thread. There were sort of particular things or like a order that these events would go in. So you kind of knew what to expect, and nobody really called each other their actual real names or even knew where anybody came from unless you just happened to like know them in real life. So it was just kind of an escape, and you just did your thing. There was no real judgment. It was just all sport. It was all fun for everyone. You had like old people, young people, all different levels of effort, all different levels of ability. Another thing about hashing is you're not supposed to ever talk about it. It's supposed to be like a huge secret, but I guess the cat's out of the bag at this point. So hopefully, hopefully they'll be okay. I think there's been like documentaries or TV shows that have gone into like what hashing is. But anyway, that was a fun running group. I wish that there was something similar now. I don't think that I could do all of the, like I definitely don't think I could do the drinking, but I think it would be fun. It would be fun to do like the laying of the trail and that kind of thing. Like have that element of mystery, sort of a gamification of the running added into it. I would be sort of concerned about here on Big Island, just like safety concern, because, and also like just like from a respect perspective, because people here like they are not gonna be super kindly to you, like laying trail through their yard or through their farm field or something like that. Like you could probably get beat up or shot for doing that here. I guess you could have that happen like anywhere, but yeah, yeah, people generally aren't super friendly about you coming on their property, at least in my experience. And then also like lava fields and stuff. Like if you're gonna go like on these agro surfaces, some of them are really dangerous. Like if you slip and fall on like really sharp basalt or obsidian or whatever, it can cut you like a knife. So yeah, like safety is kind of a concern at this point for stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know why I went into that whole tangent. I guess because that was just an example of a time that I had a lot of fun with running. It'd be nice if there was some of that here. I've seen hashing stickers on the backs of people's cars here, but I don't know if that's because they were hashing where they came from before they moved here, or if they have a foot sticker that means something totally different than hashing. But usually when you see like a foot sticker, just a sticker in the shape of a foot on the back of somebody's car, that means they're a hasher. Maybe I should do some research and look in to seeing if there's a hash hound harriers for the islands. I'll bet you there's one in Oahu, or on Oahu, but I'm not sure about Big Island. I'll check it out. Yeah. So in the meantime, I'll look forward to running with that group on Thursdays. So Justin, one of the people that's in that group, I think I've talked about him before on this podcast. He's actually run around the whole entire Big Island. So that race that I was talking about earlier, the Go Big, I think that was actually the one that he did. And I want to say it was like closer to 300 miles, like by the time he finished it. So I don't know if he went a different way, or maybe if I'm just not recalling right, but I could have sworn the Go Big was like 260, but I think he ended up doing more, like closer to 300 miles. But yeah, so he's a super interesting guy just for that alone, but he's also super nice too. So he's fun to talk to. I was kind of sad that he wasn't there on Thursday, but I guess he got injured. So wishing Justin a speedy recovery. And then nobody else showed up either. They were all busy that day. So yeah. I don't know. I don't think I have like a bunch of other stuff to talk about. I had planned this out in my head and thought that it would be so super interesting to get back on here after 8 months and just talk about everything. But it's kind of like I had a lot of ideas, but I didn't write them down, and so now I'm having trouble recalling. I did yoga for a while. That's another thing that I did not write down, but I'm just recalling. And so hot yoga of Hilo, it was pretty fun, pretty good. I am hoping to get back to going sometime soon. But what happened there, I started going and then got so busy with work and school that I had bought like unlimited monthly pass. And so it was a little bit more expensive than, if you just bought like a couple of sessions per month. And so a couple of sessions per month is probably all I was going to use anyway, normally. But then I got burdened with like school and, work. And I couldn't go at all. Like I absolutely couldn't. It was so bad for a while. Like I was literally waking up, working all day, and then when I say all day, I mean like no breaks, like no, and then falling asleep and then waking up the next day and doing that over. So I had like zero time to do anything. And so that was sort of self-imposed, I guess. Like I always had the choice because I work remotely. So I could have stopped and gone to hot yoga or done a run or something like that. But then too, there's like, it's kind of like not a catch-22, but it's like, yeah, you can do that and take your personal time, but then can you also get everything done on time to be able to keep your job, you know? So like, even though there's nobody breathing down my neck saying like, you're going to lose your job if you don't get XYZ done by, a certain amount of time, still it's sort of like implied, or at least I'm agonizing over it. Like it is that way. And so, I was so nervous that for a while I was just like working nonstop, which is not good. I don't recommend it. It's actually horrible. It goes against everything that I believe work should be. I believe in working hard, but I definitely think that there should be limitations, and like the weight of a project shouldn't rest on one person. Which it never did per se, but yeah, it always felt like a lot of pressure. So anyways, the point is I didn't do a lot of anything except for work for about like 4 months. And so I also at the same time was just basically making donations to hot yoga of Hilo, because I could never go and I was still paying for it. It was on a automatic draft each month. So I'm sorry, hot yoga Hilo, that I just disappeared. It didn't have anything to do with you all. I enjoyed the sessions, and I mean, it was good. I don't know if I got more flexible. I think like I actually felt more pain like from stretching things out that I normally wouldn't stretch, to be honest. But I did feel like it was a good substitute for like a short run, like going there. It was something different to do, besides just, pounding pavement or pounding gravel or whatever. And so I'll come back soon. I'll come back one of these days. But yeah, so if you're in Hilo, or if you're close to Hilo, or if you're close to a hot yoga place in general, it's a good time. Yeah, I recommend it. Just make sure, if you're like me and you sweat like profusely, bring some extra towels. Like that was one of the biggest things I had trouble coming to grips with, because I would just do my run, get back in my truck. It doesn't really matter. I've got seat shields and towels in my truck, and I can change my shirt if I usually didn't wear a shirt when I was going running, like around the neighborhood or whatever. But like the sweat thing wasn't a super big concern. But when you're inside of a building, inside of a room, and you're sweating all over like the mats and the floors, I mean, it's to be expected. Like everybody has like a puddle of sweat around them. But for me, my puddle of sweat was just always like a little bit bigger. So I had trouble like coming to grips with like that being the normal. And then like sort of like, what is the etiquette after hot yoga is done? Like, do I need to mop up all of my sweat like before I leave? 'Cause I don't want to step on any toes or anything. Like it was all new to me, but nobody ever said anything like negative or whatever. And I would just like bring extra towels and just try to get the most of it up that I could. And I actually came up with sort of like a little method of rolling up my mat to where I could get it into my mat bag without like, I guess, spreading. This is so gross, but like I could have the least impact of sweat on their mats basically. And then like if I could get out of there fast enough, I could also keep from dripping like a sweat trail on my way out. But yeah, that's a totally gross conversation on hot yoga. The actual time spent in the class I enjoyed, and all the instructors were super professional and super good and super kind and everything. So like they too, like they remember your name as well. Like I would go back in there even like after a month would pass, they'd be like, "Oh, hi Clint, welcome back." Um, so that was cool too. It's always cool when people sort of like remember you, even if it's just like your first name or whatever. So yeah, hot yoga, woo. But yeah, I think that's about it. I'm sorry, like I was hoping this would be a lot better, but I knew I needed to do one to kind of like get back in the groove, and then I'll try to have a better script and put some more interesting stuff in there for next time. I want to get more guests, and so I'll just be transparent here. I'm hoping that this running group every Thursday will give me an opportunity to kind of get some people to come and be on my podcast, and it'll be a lot more interesting than just me talking for an hour or more about nothing basically. so yeah, it'll be a lot more interesting to get some unique stories and unique perspectives from other runners, especially around the island. I think I hope that I didn't come off as like being disparaging towards the island or anything earlier. I really enjoy living on the big island of Hawaii. Like I really like it here. I really love being able to go to a volcano or go up to Mauna Loa or over to Waimea or somewhere along the Kona coast, or just here at home. Actually, one of my favorite places to run every day was the place that I can no longer go, or I choose not to go anymore, just because the amount of like criminal element that's there now just doesn't seem safe. But like the road beach road, which extends from my neighborhood that I live in all the way down to where the lava flow is from Fissure 8 in 2018. It's a long way down there. It's plenty of gravel road, and it's nice. You've got jungle, farm fields on both sides, and then you actually get close to the ocean. There's some really nice. They're not like sandy beaches, but there's some nice like shoreline going out. And I used to love running out there. Australian pines. And just cool little road to run down, and I've talked about it on the podcast before. But yeah, that was one of my favorite routes, and it was close to home too, so I could just drive like 10-15 minutes, park, and then be on my way, get my run in for the day, and get a pretty decent distance in, and still have plenty of time to get back home and do other stuff. And I really enjoyed that, being able to do that. But unfortunately, it's not something I feel safe doing, whether I'm leaving my vehicle parked or whether I'm getting dropped off down there. I don't recommend it, and I don't personally feel safe doing it anymore. So but I mean, the point is, like, all around this island is great, and for the most part, people are pretty exceptional. It's the way that it is in most places. Like 98% of the population is just normal. It's just normal people, and then you've got like a small percentage that just like screw it up for everybody else. And so yeah, it definitely holds true here as well. It's just gotten worse, I guess, in my humble opinion, like in the last couple of years. Yeah, And I don't know if it has anything to do with the pandemic or not, but it's gotten sillier, or not sillier. It's gotten more serious actually, like just around our way. So I think the same thing is going. I mean, the same thing's always been going on, like even on Oahu. But somebody got broken into um, this week over there as well. Another runner. I was on Strava and looking, and somebody got their window bashed in. So it just sucks. Like you have a good time and you're feeling good, and then you come back and then your vehicle's like broken into, and they've taken your cards and stuff, your wallet, whatever, your phone. It's a bummer. Like you don't think about like how important all that stuff is day to day, but it becomes very apparent when you don't have it anymore and you have to like scramble to replace it. But yeah, so again, I've gone down this negative spin. Other than like very small, uh, you know, other than a few times where things have sucked, most every other day has been very normal here. And so I'm grateful to be here. I started beekeeping too, which is cool here because you don't have to like winterize the bees. They can just work, and they can find enough food year round because there's always stuff in bloom. And so that's been an experience too. But I've got, we've got our house, which we're fortunate to have. We're able to like keep bees, and everybody's healthy so far, and that counts for a lot, especially now. So I'm happy for all that. Happy to be here. Yeah, for sure. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm miserable. I'm really not. And I'm able to like to go running again, which has been like a real I guess blessing for lack of a better word, but yeah, it's been really good to be able to get back out. It's sort of a combo antidepressant and like ADHD medication for me to be able to get out and do some kind of physical activity every day. It really helps me focus, and it really helps me sort of like not get down, because for me especially, I'm a little bit of a loner, so I don't have many friends or any friends really that I talk to on a regular basis. So it can be depressing, like if I don't get out and see, that I'm just a small piece of the world, and there's bigger things than me out there, and sort of see something outside my four walls. It's good for me to be reminded of that every day, that life is a lot bigger than what's inside of my head. And then also, like, from a focus perspective, I have more mental clarity, I think, when I've worked my body out. I won't say that my body's in shape, because it's definitely not. It's in a shape, but it's not the right shape. But like when I've worked it out, I can tell a difference, like in my focus and my mental clarity. But anyway, you guys didn't come here for all this, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'll end it here. But I hope that everybody out there is doing okay. Hang in there, and keep taking care of yourself. Definitely keep running. Check out those things that I was talking about, the Willie Nelson book, and then also the book about Raven, and I've forgotten the title, but you can go on Audible and just search for Raven. It's the one about the guy that runs every day in Miami. Or you can try to search online. I'm sure there's other stuff out there. Like I say, I learned about him from a Runner's World article, or maybe it was Trail Runner. I don't remember, but yeah. The audiobook so far has been way more like in depth and interesting than the original article that I read. So Smartwool, like if you're able to to get that, it's cut. You can find sales. I think that like Backcountry and Moose Jaw have smart wool stuff on sale pretty frequently. So like if you can find your sizes, it may be good to buy from one of them rather than buy from Smart Wool directly, because Smart Wool will run sales on certain items too from time to time. Um, it is a little bit expensive. You got to remember though, like it'll probably last a pretty good long while, and then also it's more utilitarian, or it has more utility in like the warmth arena or the warmth area than most of like the polyblend type tech singlets or tech tees that you'll find for running. So if you're really getting at like higher altitudes or places where it's cold or places where it's wet, you have that advantage of wool, which will actually keep you warmer than maybe some other materials would. But anyway, so yeah, Smart Wool so far has been good. And then let me stop talking now. But yeah, take care of yourself, and I'll do another one of these hopefully soon. I'll try to get some guests. So far, I've only had one guest on this thing, and I just feel like it would be way more interesting to have other runners. So if you're out there and you're on Big Island, or if you're in the islands or you're gonna visit the islands and you want to join me for a podcast and sort of like get into your story, then contact me. You can find, I think, my details on runninthought.com. You can contact me that way. There's a link to the Reddit page, and so you can probably just I'm a moderator of that page. You can send me some communication on there, I think. So those are some ways to get a hold of me. And then of course I'm on Strava, so that may be the easiest way is just to follow me on Strava, and then comment on one of my runs, like, hey, I want to be on a podcast. And then anybody's welcome. I'm pretty interested in talking to all levels, all skill levels, all abilities, and so forth. So yeah. All right. Well, take care, everyone, and I'll be back soon. All right. Bye.